the shift happened because I fell to my knees and I started shaking and trembling and crying and just looking up at the sky and praying to God. I said, take the money, take the notoriety, take everything. I don't care. I need a single day of freedom. I'm begging you. And, he heard me because I saw that white light. And some people get it in life. And I got it right then in the bathroom at the Caroline building in New York City because I stood up and it wasn't me. And I flushed the pills and wound up on a computer. And I was in a taxi cab 20 minutes later looking up at the sky saying, oh my God. For the first time in my life, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to get high. And I wound up in a church basement with 150, 200 addicts and alcoholics. And I threw my hand right up. I said, I'm Darren. I'm sick. I'm suffering. I want to kill myself. I can't make this. I need your guys' help. And about a dozen men came over to me. They were my spiritual brothers to this day and said, we got you. We know how you're feeling. But if you keep coming one day at a time and stay close to us, we can show you a life that you can never imagine.
Darren, what's up, man?
What's up, man?
How
Thanks
you
for
doing?
having me.
Hey, thanks for being on the show. Real pleasure. So you got a pretty dope spot here. I'm not gonna lie. We were able to somehow sneak in a whole entire room, but hopefully nobody walks in.
Hopefully the Avalon isn't watching this interview when it airs.
Guys, it's just at the end of the day, it's a commercial for you guys, so they should be happy we're doing this in here.
Good point.
Anyways, I want to get started. You have a very, very, very interesting past. And let me tell you something before I dive into it. I can relate a little bit. So something that I don't necessarily talk about all the time is this whole journey that I'm on actually inspired from a drug overdose at the age of 18. Mm-hmm. And so hearing about your story and how you took that and changed it up, because I know you get into a very confused state. Mm-hmm. A very confused state once you go through that process and you're not necessarily sure how to get out of it. And I thought it was really inspiring to see somebody who's kind of like using that to advocate against it and to really show people like that there is a light. If you go through it, there is a light on the other side. So why don't you guide me through Darren before all of this happened? Because I always ask myself this question all the time, and I'm kind of curious from your perspective how it is. For me, I ask myself, how was Adam before the drugs? How was Adam before what he did? And so how was Darren to you before the drugs, and what kind of spiraled into getting into that lifestyle?
When I speak, I often tell the story just like this. I had a great loving family, mother, father, sister, very close. I lost my father 2.5 years ago, and all the love and care in the world. From the outside, none of it made sense that I went down the path that I did. But I never fit in, never felt a part of. Always felt like an outcast, so uncomfortable in my own skin, so much nervous anxiety over absolutely nothing. So I think it was around 14 years old, I was in sleepaway camp, and a lot of insecurities. I was in these small classrooms, had a learning disability, apparently is what I was told from teachers, so I was teased because of that. And I'm at sleepaway camp one night, that nervous anxiety brought on these horrendous stomach pains. So I told the counselor, I said, we need to go to the infirmary, I don't know what's wrong. And she gave me this green liquid in a clear cough syrup cup, and I don't know what it was. I took it, tasted disgusting. But 3 minutes later, I'm walking across the softball field. Every time I talk about it, the hair on my neck still stands up, and my life changed forever. Every one of those inferiorities and insecurities went away like that. I got back to the bunk. I'm now the cool guy, the talkative one, the good-looking one, the buff one, the popular one, the funny guy. I got the courage to go to the bunk next door and flirt with girls for the first time in my life. Thinking nothing of it, I woke up the next morning, did all my activities, and that very next night I'm lying in bed with no stomach pain whatsoever, and I'm looking up at the sky saying, man, that feeling was amazing. I look at the counter, I go, yo, my stomach is killing me, man. This was at 14. We did this for 3 straight weeks every night until my mom and dad came up for visitation day and found that I was taking liquid Demerol. And that was the end of that. And but I found the magic, I found the answer, and I chased it. And a few months later, I got my wisdom teeth taken out, and I got the same reaction from Vicodin. I'm on the phone calling up my boys, friends of mine. There was just something that I was missing that gave me what I was missing.
And that took you down that entire path. And how long was your addiction?
From there, it was about 24 years.
24 years. So throughout the process, did it ever hit you that you had to stop, or?
It took a long time because when you start a baseball card business as a teenager, and you're making more money than your friend's parents. And I was 15 years old in 1985, making $200,000-$300,000 a year selling baseball cards. My ego, not realizing so much it was this deep-rooted, broken insecurity. People treated me a little bit different because now Darren's cool. He's the one written up on the newspapers, and it took me eventually into the sports and entertainment industry. At 25 years old, I had Magic Johnson as my first client. And I remember right down the street at the Mondrian, maybe 1997, lit up, banked up at a party and high as a kite, and I see Kobe Bryant. I walked over to him schmoozing. I talk about it in the book. He's on the phone with one of his friends. Oh, this is my boy. Let me say hello to him. Hold on, bro. I'll call you back. And I was just fearless. And then from the outside, I looked like I had it all, but I was so incredibly broken on the inside. I was always looking for that outside fix that was an inside job, and I believed all the bull crap, the way I was treated differently, because of what I did, but never knowing who the hell I was. And eventually what was once living to use turned out to using to live. And the last 2 or 3 years, I didn't want to wake up. I was just so sick and tired of living this double life where people thought this so-called super agent, but in reality, I was a complete fraud. I was a joke to myself.
So let's go back. So you were selling baseball cards at the age of 15, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And then how did that spiral into you becoming an agent?
I had a sports memorabilia company for a few years, sports and celebrity memorabilia company, and I would broker autograph signings for all these athletes and celebrities. So I built a relationship with them through that.
And to you, the drugs were the ones that were helping you push through all those challenges?
Absolutely.
Okay. And this is so super relatable for me. That's why I was like, we actually had, I'm gonna be very honest with you, we had like a list of questions. And I went over your story and I'm like, what, screw the questions. I know like exactly the kind of conversation I want to have with you, because how did you feel when you were sober? When you weren't with that when you didn't have access to the substance, when you had to perform at a high level, did that ever happen to you?
Not really, because once I started, I always had money, so I always had resources, and every doctor was in awe of me because I manipulated the system. I'd be at a doctor in the middle of freaking San Francisco that would come make a house call. I'd pay him $500. I'd call Hulk Hogan, get him on the phone with them. I'd, Smoking Joe Frazier would be with me on the road somewhere. I'd be like, hey, champ, I got a doctor coming. I don't feel good. Come say hello to him. You do this stuff, become a professional con artist. And so I always made sure that no matter what city I was in, I manipulated the system.
So that methodology of knowing how to get the job done, how did that come into hand with building your business?
Oh, I think I always was a people person, which came from my dad. He always taught me, a few things. It's not what you say, it's what you do. Your reputation's the hardest thing to uphold and the easiest thing to lose, and you only get one chance. And then the idea is 1%, and carrying it through is the other 99. Because everybody's got the ideas, but they don't know how to carry it through. And I think all that together collectively always made me so hands-on. To this day, my clients will tell you, I can be on the phone with Hulk Hogan like I was 2 days ago for an hour. Every single call ends with, I love you, brother. Love you, bro. We have this deep, deep emotional, connection. I'm that way with my corporate clients. I just think, I never lost sight of the appreciation of these corporate, celebrity, and personal relationships that I've built. And I'll deal with, it doesn't matter if it's a multi-million-dollar deal or making sure Magic Johnson's Cadillac Escalade is waiting for him on the tarp when his private jet lands. I don't care. I don't have an ego when it comes to that. This is my job, whether it's at the bottom or the top.
And has that been rooting for you since you were a kid?
Yes.
So this is something that you were taught growing up, that you always treat each other equally, or where did that come from?
A lot of it was my dad.
Okay.
Like I said, he was a huge inspiration, my best friends, and I lost him 2.5 years ago. He's a big reason why I was inspired to write this book after he passed. But he taught me so much, and I remember Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, any of my guys could have been in town. Dennis Rodman, it was always so big on him to take them to dinner, and I was like, Dad, it's annoying that then they get bothered. It doesn't become enjoyable for them, and it's like, you don't understand. Nobody offers them this to get away from the business. It's super important. Even if they go once out of every 3 or 4 times, it's important to ask them. And once in a while, I think almost every one of them would always have a Prince dinner family or a lunch out somewhere, which was always great.
And how when you first started, obviously getting in front of these big names, it's not something that's easy to accomplish. What'd you do? What was your first big break?
I think people have mentors in life, right? You need to surround yourself with people that are smarter, more successful. You know, at the end of the day, you learn from somebody that's got more success from you. If you're the smartest person in any room you walk into, you need to find another room. And I surrounded myself with people that had those gifts, those talents, because you save a fortune of money and years learning from their mistakes. You know, and I just think, you know, surrounding myself with that type of environment allowed me to excel that much quicker at such a young age.
And people talk about mentorship a lot, and I feel like with everybody they have their own certain definition of mentorship. What was mentorship to you? Did you actually have like physical meetings with people on like a weekly basis, or was it did you read books? Did you chase through audio? How did you learn from these individuals?
I think there was different stages in my business career. There were different people. Early on, it was my dad and my uncle Joe, who passed away in my early 20s. And then once I got out of the memorabilia game, I needed people like Magic Johnson were like the first one that was right there to tell me how to do things and how not to do things. And even getting into the memorabilia business, I had a good friend, Jeff Hamilton, who's a very well-known leather jacket designer. He opened up the door with one of my closest friends now, Harlan Warner, who's Muhammad Ali's agent. So I always surrounded myself with, you know, super successful people, really taking advantage of whatever position I was in, and most importantly, keep my mouth shut and listen, because I knew I didn't know much.
Okay, very interesting. And how did you leverage value from both ends? How did you give them value in return for their mentorship? How did that discussion? And the reason why I'm going into details is because I personally get a lot of these questions. Is how do you convince someone at such a high level to spend time with you when I'm pretty sure they have a bunch of other things on their plate? How did that look for you?
You know, I think I was authentic. I was real. I was relentless too. I still am to this day.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how big of a deal is. We pulled off one of the most epic corporate events 2 months ago with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. It's never been done before, to the Hard Rock Casino. And that next morning at 9 a.m., I'm on the phone with Magic, and we're laughing about it. And he goes, "All right, boy, what's the next one? What other casinos you calling?" You know, it's just always been in me. There's just the chase of it, the thrill. Always got to get better, always got to do more, always have to, you know, keep proving. My mindset now with every agent that works for me is we're only good as our last deal. I don't care if we got a 25-year relationship.
Okay.
You know, and you know, it works for me professionally. It might be a little bit difficult for people personally to understand that mindset, but that's just me.
And when you say relentless, does that mean if you get a no, you continue going, or what does relentless mean to you?
If you get a no, I'll try to find another way.
Okay. Could you give us an example of a moment where you got rejected and you just kept going?
I mean, I tried the opening of my book, the Ali Fraser, those two kings reuniting. That took 7 years of convincing Joe to finally, you know, put the hate aside, put the resentment aside, and the worlds collided in 2001. Muhammad Ali was on the front page of the New York Times saying, "I apologize to Joe Frazier. He was a good man, and if God, you know, called me into a holy war, I'd want Joe Frazier right beside me." And it still took me a year after that to convince Joe that it was time.
Oh, 7 years. And how? Okay. Necessarily, so it's very interesting. I'm getting into more technical details now. A lot of when you're dealing with the high level, do you notice any difference from high level people or just a normal person, or is this just the same interaction, same thing? There's no key differentiation, or do you have certain strategies that you have for more higher end clients than your typical, or do you get what I'm saying?
You might need to change gears a little bit when it comes to somebody that's more high end. That's obviously got the proven success.
Yeah.
Versus somebody that doesn't. But it's still the same, I mean, in a way, because if somebody doesn't have that success and they still need convincing or an education or why they should consider something, whether it's a bigger client or medium size, you still have to, you know, find a way to convince them and explain why this is a great opportunity or why it's something they should reconsider and why they're looking at it wrong and they should maybe change their perspective on the opportunity.
So when you say changing gears, can you give me like an example of like top 3 things that come out of your mind that, you know, are different than the way you communicate with these people?
You know, I just think, like I said, if it's a bigger name, I can identify with projects we've done or they've been associated with. If it's somebody that's not as experienced, I'll have to give identifications or exemplars of other situations of opportunities that they might know. And then I sometimes just use it for my own experience, you know, and I'll just say, "Hey, I had this opportunity or I had this situation a few years ago. Did I ever tell you about it?" So no, tell me about it. And then if I'm explaining to it where it's real and it's authentic. Sometimes it works. A lot more times than not, it works.
Okay, I see. Authenticity. And you've been sober for quite a bit now. How has the world changed for you since?
11 and a half years. It's changed.
Congratulations,
completely.
by the way. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
beautiful.
The greatest thing I've done in my whole life.
And how was that first? Can you guide me through that last day? When you made that intention to like.
I still get emotional talking about it, which is good because I never want to forget. But it was July 2nd, and on a Sunday evening, I was married at the time, and I came back from the gym in New York City at my apartment, and I was detoxing for 2 days, and I said, I can't do this. I called my uncle and his then girlfriend who were in the 12-step fellowship who were trying to get me clean. And I said, I'm calling the damn doctors. I'm getting what I really need to get. My uncle picked up the phone and said, this is the damn disease talking, Darren. He goes, it's owned your ass for 20-something years. It's time you go to a 12-step meeting, put your hand up, put your damn ego aside and tell these people you're sick, you're suffering, you need help. I said, there's no freaking way. I hung up the phone. I went into the bathroom and opened up a medicine cabinet, and we were sure that me and my ex threw out all the opiates. And I went to take these 2 narcotic anxiety pills, and 2 Vicodins fell out. Vicodins are one of the 3 opiates I was addicted to. And for a split second, it seemed like a gift from God. I took that deep breath. I was like, oh, thank God. And then the shift happened because I fell to my knees. And I started shaking and trembling and crying and just looking up at the sky and praying to God. I said, take the money, take the notoriety, take everything. I don't care. I need a single day of freedom. I'm begging you. And, he heard me because I saw that white light. And some people get it in life. And I got it right then in the bathroom at the Caroline building in New York City because I stood up and it wasn't me. And I flushed the pills and wound up on a computer. And I was in a taxi cab 20 minutes later looking up at the sky saying, oh my God. For the first time in my life, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to get high. And I wound up in a church basement with 150, 200 addicts and alcoholics. And I threw my hand right up. I said, I'm Darren. I'm sick. I'm suffering. I want to kill myself. I can't make this. I need your guys' help. And about a dozen men came over to me. They were my spiritual brothers to this day and said, we got you. We know how you're feeling. But if you keep coming one day at a time and stay close to us, we can show you a life that you can never imagine.
That is beautiful. And you say you got the light. Some people don't necessarily get that. And I've personally dealt with a lot of people who get down this path and don't ever come out of it. So if anybody's watching that's stuck in that loophole, that circle, what tips would you give them on how to kind of get themselves out of it?
There's hope and recovery for anybody that's out there. I'm living proof because to me, the high bottoms are the ones that are the easiest to overdose and not make it because we've got the resources. And it's harder for us to come to terms that we actually have a problem because you look at the business, I look at the clients, I look at the success and the money. We're the ones that, like I said, we're more of an emotional bottom. And if you want this more than anything, help is everywhere. There's not a city across America that doesn't have 12-step meetings, outpatient centers. Have the courage to speak up. It takes strength to talk about the problem rather than keep it within yourself. And when that happens, and when you fully surrender to whatever disease of addiction, alcoholism, substance abuse, overeating, shopping, everybody's got something that makes them powerlessness where it's a real problem, where it becomes first and you cannot control it. When you've got the courage to speak up and you can break through to the other side, it's the greatest thing you could ever do for yourself.
And when you feel under pressure now, obviously being such a high performer, you have a lot on your plate, I'm sure, on an everyday basis. So when you're under pressure, what kind of things do you do to kind of make sure you don't slip and fall?
I go to 12-step meetings. I've got a sponsor back in New Jersey who's my dear friend. He's got 32 years. I've got sponsees that, through the gift my higher power gave me, I'm allowed to, pass it along to these, younger men that now have sobriety. We talk to each other, and my perspective and perception changes on everything now because I'm sober. So just how I look at my attitude, what I'm looking at on a given day, that's really a problem. Is it a problem? Because I think in reality, anybody living in this building, anybody in this room right now being interviewed, when we think something's a problem, if we're not dying, if there's no disease or sense of life-threatening emergency, we have luxury problems.
100%. Yeah.
People don't look at it like that. You want to say, oh, this is the problem. My car got hit. Joel Osteen's a good friend. Okay, I know, but I love what he says. At least you have a car. People don't realize that. You're driving on the freeway, you get a flat tire. What a disaster this is. Is it really? What about the people that have no home, no place to go, you know. But it's easy in society to think that way.
And now that you've sobered up, what's your why behind everything you do?
What's my why?
Yeah.
For me, it's just helping people. It's the greatest thing in the world. There's nothing like, just get in front of an audience. And my favorite is teenagers, but when I could do it with adults too, and I know somebody came that day having no clue what they were about to hear and having no belief that they could ever kick this dirty little sick secret that they've been living, how bad and how dark it got. But some God-given words that came out of Darren Prince's mouth touched them, where either during the Q&A or after during a book signing, they come over to me and said, hey, can I talk to you? I can't tell you the list of people that have recovered and have found sobriety. I've got a woman back home in Short Hills, New Jersey. She's writing blogs now. She's speaking. And, she's like, I just can't even tell you every time. When my dad passed away, she came to his funeral and said, I can't even tell you that you gave me my kids back. And, she goes, they were taken away from me by my ex-husband. And, she goes, I just can't tell you how special you are. And I go, look, I'm not the one that's special. It's my God that's special because I was given this gift by him.
That is beautiful. And so you just continuously just share your story and help other people figure it out. So I want to shift gears into business now. So you have a lot of successful accolades behind you. You've done a lot of amazing things, worked with just amazing big names and players. When you first, and your first big deal was Magic Johnson, correct? Mm-hmm. So can you tell me a bit about that first, that I know we kind of talked about a little bit in the beginning of the podcast, but how did you obtain such a big name when you first started? What was your strategy behind it?
So, life's about who you know, not what you know. Mm-hmm. And so through my friend Jeff Hamilton, I got introduced to Harlan Warner, who's Muhammad Ali's agent. And one day in 1994, I had an opportunity for Magic Johnson. I called up Harlan. He introduced me to Lon Rosen, who was Magic's longtime player agent. And it was like Fort Knox getting through to Magic Johnson at that point. Lon was very, very, very protective of who gets brought into that inner circle. But, I proved myself that they allowed me to book the first event for Magic. And I was so OCD about where I needed to be, where my staff needed to be. I flew extra people out. I wanted to make sure he felt like a king, didn't need to lift a finger, that all the I's were dotted, T's were crossed, and it was flawless, just a perfect experience. And I knew that he was going to call Lon and his team afterwards. And, just from that first one, then the second opportunity came, the third opportunity came. And I got into some, without giving the story, but some pretty big legal trouble in the mid-90s from the memorabilia business I was in. And first time in my life, I had financial problems. I lost everything. I was about $1 million in debt. And I got off without, getting any jail time because the judge realized that it was just a very stupid mistake that I made. And in a limousine in Atlantic City with Magic crying one night about what happened. And he's like, God tests great men and women, and he's testing you right now. And you're going to look back and you're going to make lemonade out of lemons. And a few months later, I was with my dad fly fishing in Alaska, and he's like, what's your next move, boy? I was like, Dad, I can't go back into the memorabilia business. I want to be an agent, but I'm not an attorney. And he's like, attorney, what does that have to do with it? And he used that expression, it's about who you know in life, not what you know. Why don't you speak to Magic? You have a 3-year relationship with them. Tell him what you want to do. Maybe he'll give you a shot where you could be his agent.
You just share it.
That's how it happened.
Yeah. It's so interesting how you just somebody's in here. It's interesting how you talk about just sharing your story, because I feel like a lot of people when they're in front of big names like that, they're kind of, I guess, antagonized by the whole ideology of, oh my God, he's a star. Where am I? Who am I to think? When people just don't understand that there's like a human connection that you have to implement. And I feel like you've done that so well with everybody you've leveraged, everything you've done, and everybody you've inspired. I'm pretty taken away. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's not a lot of people that when I sit with them, I'm just like in the shock of how they've been able to turn their life around. So when it comes to leadership, though, let's talk a bit about that. I'm sure you manage a team and you have a lot of, as I said, different things under you. What are some key tips to being a great leader?
I do have a great team around me. I've got 5 great agents. I've got Patrick and Nino, our head of social media, who's here. And, everybody knows their role. Mm-hmm. Nobody steps on each other's toes. And somebody else will pick up the slack if somebody else is unable to do it. That's as far as my agency Prince Marketing Group side. When it comes to my celebrities, men, women, whoever they are, I know that I'm the man behind the man and the man behind the woman. And that's the key to me to becoming a successful agent. There's a lot of them out here in Hollywood and up in New York start to think they're bigger than the celebrity, they're bigger than the athlete. That's not the case. The player and the celebrity and the musician makes the agent, makes the manager. Yeah, a lot of us are a lot smarter, might have a lot more abilities to open up doors, but you first need that talent to give the agent and the manager that platform to open up those doors. You know,
so if you were to pull out maybe like 2 or 3 different things that people need to focus on when it comes to leadership, what would they be?
Surrounding yourself with a great team,
Okay.
Or some great people. If you can't afford to have a team, if you're in a startup mode, listen a lot more than you talk, so you can learn, and surround yourself with people that are also more successful than you within the industry that you're trying to achieve your ultimate success.
You've branded yourself literally based off association, basically.
Yes,
That's amazing. It's so interesting.
And leverage.
Leverage. It's like it's who you know. It's literally who you know. Connections are super key.
I'm not tooting my own horn, but Patrick will tell you. I mean, I'm probably one of the best leveragers on the planet. It's just how I'm able to work, and something happens for somebody and then somebody else, and then boom, I put 2 more people with this one. It's like a game of chess, but I've been doing it for 26, 27 years. So
and how do you stay in touch with everybody?
Some of my team and my friends, they're blown away how like robotic and how I could just be so calm, cool, and collected no matter what's going on any given day. And sad areas with Chevy Chase in Atlantic City for this big Q&A. Just made sure Dennis knocked out an interview today. We're being with Magic Johnson tomorrow, and Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan at the end of the week. They're here at the Staples Center with WWE, and it's easy, man. I've been doing it for so long.
Are you one of those guys who just...
I think, like the writer of my book, Krista McGinnis, and Anna David, my publisher, I got to give her a shout out because they did a tremendous job. She's like, it sounds to me, and she wrote it in the book, that you realize at a certain point you have a special talent for managing special talent. That's a good way to put it.
A leverager, a great leverager. Yeah, because I actually have this guy we know who, a colleague of ours was making a joke about how he always somehow stays in touch with everyone he knows. Like even people who you haven't seen in like maybe years, at least you grab lunch or something. Do you have some sort of method that you follow or a system that you follow that you probably could share with us?
I sort of do the same thing. When it's their birthdays, I have calendar invites to give them a call, send something to the house. If it's their wife's birthday, vice versa, the same sort of thing. The holidays, New Year's, Thanksgiving. To this day, I think every Thanksgiving, the first 2 text messages I get are for Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. It's
nice. Unbelievable. Very nice.
Unbelievable on Thanksgiving.
That's very cool. You have close relationships with everyone around you.
Yep.
I think that's just an amazing thing for somebody to have and leverage, because not a lot of good people out there like that kind of understand how to create that and sustain a relationship.
No, it's about personal relationships. A month ago, I was at Carmen Electra's house for 3 hours talking life. Denise Richards and I were on the phone for a half hour last week. She's in between filming Beverly Hills Housewives. And there's a trust and a love and a bond and a respect.
You know what's
and
funny?
I know how each person ticks.
Yeah.
I
feel like social media has caused such a distance in people.
That could do it too.
What's your take on
sure.
that?
Yeah, no, it could. I mean, I think it also breaks down the communication. Where years ago when we didn't have it, you were almost forced to call somebody and have a lot bigger personal bond than we can nowadays. We're also quick to text message and inbox or DM, and it just doesn't, allow you to have that ability as much anymore.
No, definitely. So this book, Aiming High, you said your father's passing away is what inspired you to write it.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about what's, maybe give us a little bit of golden nuggets of what's inside.
All right, so Dad wanted me to write a book about my journey, in the agency business. And I just said, Dad, I said, I don't have an ego anymore. I said, I checked that at the door when I got sober. So I don't feel comfortable writing about my experiences. And so when he passed, all these crazy things started happening. I got contacted by the Trump administration to be involved with their opiate epidemic mission. And I got booked on Dr. Oz, got booked to speak at a couple big galas. And I hooked up with my publisher, Anna David, at a meeting here in Los Angeles. And she's like, your story is fascinating. Why don't you write a book? I was like, it's funny you said that. And my father passed away 8 months ago. I wanted me to write one. She goes, I got it. I know what the book is. She goes, most agents at your level can't write a book about it because they're with one of the big agencies. You own your own agency. This would be the first of its kind that a credited agent with your success can talk about the hell of addiction to the beauty of spiritual recovery, but also take the world with you on this journey of what it's like as a, agent performing at the highest level. It's like, that's it. It's like, that's it. I just knew it felt right. And 2 weeks later, I was in Miami. This one gets me a little emotional. And I was with Magic in his hotel suite. And I told him I signed a deal to publish my book. He was so excited and asked what it's about. And I told him, he's like, man, he goes, you're going to change lives. This is going to be your legacy. You're going to touch the world in ways you never have. And I said, I got one more question for you. I said, could you write the forward? And I was so nervous. And he looked at me, he goes, baby boy, he goes, I'd be so angry if you didn't ask me to write the forward. And that's why he's here. And he hasn't done a forward, I can't even tell you how many years. So it meant a lot to me. That's
amazing. That's really cool. I was going through it, skimming through. There's a lot of photos of the different people you've met. Yeah. It's like a history. It takes you down literally. It's a whole documentary of what you've been through and everything. So that's pretty cool. And people can find it on Amazon.
Amazon or my website, officialdarrenprince.com.
Okay. And where can people find you at their social
Instagram
medias?
@agent_DP. And for anybody struggling that needs help, I'm a rep for Banyan Treatment Centers. They have 11 properties. I have my own personal call center at 8886-DARREN, which is DARREN.
Yeah,
this is another organization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like I said, the agent life is amazing, but that's not what defines me. It's the recovery advocacy that means more to me than anything.
It's like a completely different thing of what you're actually doing. It's
completely different.
Yeah. And that's kind of what keeps you alive, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I found my self-worth. I found myself by doing esteemable acts and by giving it away the way that I'm able to. I finally realized who the real Darren Prince was. And to look in the mirror and know it's not about the jewelry anymore and the crazy expensive cars and all the beautiful women. That's bullcrap. It doesn't make anybody happy at the end of the day. This is what makes me happy.
Well, Darren, I appreciate you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Awesome.